So, alrighty. I'll be back. Alrighty, so I'm back. I'm back. So peace and power and elevation be to all you beautiful, magnificent people out there. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. So I took a break for a little while, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't really feeling it for the past couple of days to do videos or whatnot. So it's a lot of videos I gotta go into. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things that I'm going to discuss on my videos. A lot of things. Okay, a lot of subject. But I want to get this subject out the way. Okay. This is my response actually. So it's my response to the brother from Each One Teach One. They used to go by NBK, New Black Knowledge. So I want to give my response to Brother Raborn Muntu, Allah. Okay, Brother Allen. I want to give my response to him. Now, first and foremost, I want to say this. Brother Raborn is a very intellectual man, very knowledgeable man, and he has been giving out a lot of great information, especially regarding to African American history. And I have to give him credit for that. I really do. I have to give him credit for it because he does a great job with, with the synopsis that he gives and putting out historical information. I give him credit for that. Okay. But there are some things that I have to question him on. And that is regarding to the concept about African spirituality, spookism, and God. Okay. So he has made several arguments, and I have his information, his post right here on my phone. So I'm going to read the post. And there are some things that I can't say I agree with him on. There are certain things I agree with him on, right? But there's certain things that I have to question him on as well. And that's what I would have to do. I would have to ask some questions. I would have to pick a brain a little bit here. And I think I was trying to get the question out on the video that he did with another brother. I forgot the brother's name. Alamani. I think that's his name, Alamani. Yeah, so he did the video with Brother Alamani, right? And shout out to Brother Alamani. He's also on my Facebook list. Shout out to him. Um, so yeah, he did a video with this brother and to stay on his position about how you feel about African spirituality and the whole concept of spookism, etc. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to read the post that Raborn put up for the past 2 or 3 days. Okay. So now the first post that I came across from Raborn was the African spirituality that enslaved your ancestors. Hit the link. Don't be afraid. And it came from UNESCO.org. All right. It said there is a 6-foot gully though now covered in a thicket that leads into the ancient cave temple. This is the main oracular shrine of Ibn Ukapabi, and by which stand as if on guard the cult statue of Kamalu, the warrior god. All right, so he mentioned that and says the site also contains an altar, which is the kitchen area, the waterfall, the loud sound of which from a distance is regarded as the prophetic voice of Ibn Ukpali, was it Ukpapi or or however you say it. I'm not good at, so forgive me for the mispronunciation. Anyway, there is also the throne of judgment, the dark presence, the holy of holies. There, those who were there, those who were found guilty walked into the dark tunnels, and those found innocent returned to their relatives. All right, so I'm not just gonna go any further on that, but you guys want to look up that information. It's whc.unesco.org. whc.unesco.org. So let's start that off. First and foremost, I would say that I can agree with him. Because the reason why I agree with him on that assessment is the fact that when we study about the Atlantic slave trade, right? Keyword trade. That means there were parties that was involved in giving the slaves over to Europeans. Okay, so I'm not saying every single African person was involved in the slave trade as far as like trading the slaves off, but there were those who did. Okay, so I can agree with him on that. Because we have to be honest. See, when we look at history, we can't just look for the good part of our history. We can't just look for the good part of things. We have to look at all areas of it. So when we look at all areas of it, then we can be able to come up with an argument and say, okay, so it's more to it than just what is given to us. So it's a lot of good things you're going to find. There's a lot of bad things you're going to find. So I'm not surprised that there were those that practice some form of African spirituality. They use their spirituality as a way to promote or to justify people going into slavery. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. All right. So that part I can agree with him on. I agree with him on that assessment. And then there's another post he posted up. All right. So he posted up a book called The Encyclopedia of Middle Passage by by Greenwood Milestone in African American History by Tonyan Valola and Amanda Warnock. All right, so he posted that up on his page. He put question: where was the African gods, deity, Abosons, Name when the Europeans showed up in Ghana? The death of spookism. Wake the fuck up. Stop romanticizing. This is the real. Did he just come and Debo his way in? Where was the damn gods in Ghana? Can I get amen? 482 is when Elmina Castle was built by the Portuguese in Ghana. How did that happen? Killmonger is here. I need some answers. All right. And so then he posted up, beginning with the Portuguese traders built several forts along the coast of Africa. The Elmina on the Gold Coast being the most notable. These forts served as trading depots during the slave trade, while others double as protection against interlopers. None of these forts would have lasted without the permission of the local African ruler or community. Okay. The occupier of the fort paid taxes and obtained provision from the surrounding villages. These forts were useful in making available the interior trading routes and contact with slavers and merchants. Moving from codifying slavery and the slave trade into law, it was a short step to making slavery a social institution that could be passed to future generations as part of African social tradition. Many African states grew and prospered from their capability to control the slave trade, with government involvement, the law, a social tradition, and the increased external demands for slaves. African rulers appeared more than willing to exchange their greatest assets, young men and women, for money. And all right, so again, I can agree. You know what I'm saying? So that's not an argument. That I'm not against him on that argument either about the slave trade. So again, I can agree with him on the concept about the Africans that played their role into slavery and using their deities as a way to justify it. I'm not knocking that. But now this is where we got to ask some questions. The question becomes, all right, when you call it pseudo, when you say African spirituality is pseudo, okay. If that's your argument, we'll go along with that. African spirituality is being pseudo. Cool. So the question is, if you're going to call that pseudo, right, then what about the school of thought that you're in? Because to my knowledge, Brother Raborn is a 5%er. Okay, he's in the Nation of Gods of Earth. And I also seen that he did a video about Islam, which is kind of ironic, and I'm gonna explain why it's ironic to me. So my thing is, when we talk about pseudo, because a lot of times people like saying the word pseudo, and some of it is. I'm not gonna no, Jehudi. No, this is not about beating up the brother. I'm not trying to beat this man up, but let's just think about it for a moment. Let's just think about it, okay? I'm not trying to beat the man up, okay? That's not what I'm here to do. But let's talk about it, all right? So our brother Raborn, he's a 5%er, all right? Last time I checked, he's a 5%. He's in the Nation Gods of Earth. All right, so it just think about this. Now, he called African spirituality pseudo and spookism. He did say that. But then, wouldn't the Nation of Gods of Earth be considered pseudo as well? I mean, just think about it. Wouldn't the Nation of Gods of Earth be considered to be pseudo as well? Because if you say that the African spirituality is pseudo, Islam is pseudo, right? Islam is pseudo. Then the school of thought that you're in, which is the 5% school of thought, that came out the school of Islam. It came out the school of the Nation of Islam, which came out the school of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which came out the school of Sufi Islam and Masonic teachings. Okay? So when we look at the roots and origin, it all traces back to Islam, which would be more so Sufi Islam. Right? So what I'm saying is the Nation Gods of Earth, or what you call the 5%, is the watered down version of Sufi Islam. I mean, if we want to get technical, if we talking about pseudo, right? Can't you admit that the 5% is the watered down version of Sufi Islam? So my point is, how can't you talk about Islam being pseudo and being spooked out when your school of thought came out the school of Islam? And then let's look at the acronym, right? I, self, Lord and Master. The Moors came up with the concept I, self, Law and Master. That number 7 didn't just start with the Nation of Gods of Earth. That started with the Moors. They used the number 7 circle. And then the 120 supreme lessons, if we look at the 120 supreme lessons, where did that originate from? That originated from the Nation of Islam. So let me explain why I would say that the Nation of Gods of Earth philosophy will be considered pseudo. And I have a lot of respect for them. I really do. Okay? Now, in one of the Nation Gods of Earth, 120 supreme lessons, they say that the question becomes, who is the original man and the original woman? They say, who is the original man? Who is the original woman? And the original man and the original woman, according to them, is the black man. And the black woman. So let me tell you why that would be considered as pseudo. Because when we talk about original man, we're talking about Homo sapien. So if you're dealing with science, right, and you say that the original man is the black man, the black woman, then you'll be wrong according to scientific knowledge. Because at that time, there was no concept of race. There was no concept of race. There was no concept of black and white. Okay? There was no racial classification. That was just only the human species. Okay? There was only human race. So, with that being said, by that being only human race out there, that would debunk the whole thing about the black man, the black woman being the original man. Because they're really not. They're not the original people. The original people are Homo sapien people. And they did not have no race classification. So that's why it would be pseudo. Now, it's funny when you say God is spookism. Because I seen somewhere where Brother Raborn put that God, there's no God, there's no deities. Okay, so if there's no God, there's no deities, right? According to your argument, there's no God, there's no such thing as God, there's no such thing as deity. Then how can't you call yourself a God? All right, Jehudi. All right, thank you for coming through. So how can't you call yourself a God then if you say there's no gods, there's no deities? So if there's no God, then there's no deity, then that means that you should throw the term God out the window. You should throw the term Allah out the window. You should get rid of the word Allah and you should get rid of the word God out your vocabulary. Because now, when you say that you're a God, right, you have deified yourself. Basically, you have made yourself into a deity. You have put yourself on that pedestal. So by your account, you say you don't believe in God, you don't believe in no deities. That's all spookism. So would it be safe for you to just go ahead and be an atheist? I mean, because you might as well be an atheist, right, at this point. You might as well be an atheist because that's where you come from. You come from an atheist point of view. Okay? So now the question becomes, and then he also gave different a definition of what God is. He tried to, as a matter of fact, let me go back on my page. Let me go back on my page because I want to make sure I get this right. Let me go ahead. Hold on. Give me a moment. I'm trying to wait for my page to load up. I put on here, if you call yourself a God or Allah, then that means you are spooky as well. Because, and the reason why I say that, let's say if you pass away, right? And you're given that title as God, then that in itself is a form of spookism because your spirit is what they conjugate. Your spirit is what they worship. So when you die, you become deified. So what I noticed in the nation of gods on earth, in some form of way, they do deify Clarence 13 as Allah, or Father Allah, as you call him. They made a deity out of him. Okay? They may not have statues of him, but when there's some people that have pictures of him on the wall, etc., and they have made a God out of this man, they made a deity out of him. So again, how can't you say spookism when you guys have deified Father Allah as a supreme God in a sense. I mean, if you want to get technical. All right, but that's just a question right there. But let me go ahead and read the comments. So I say, if you call yourself God or Allah, then that means you are spooky as well. And I'm trying to then someone put not necessarily depending on how you define God or Allah. So the question has become exactly what is God? All right, so Raborn gave a response. So I'm gonna get to his response because it was so many comments on here. He said, concept made up by humans to define their existence. Some say God in a different reality. Some say God is in reality or reality itself. And as for me, the supreme being to me is the black man and woman. Why? Because they are the most highest forms of existence in the human family because they gave birth to the entire human family. All right. Thus, when it is defined as supernatural force that exists outside of reality, I use the term to identify it as the individual who is the controller of his or her own reality, because the term being means to exist. All right. So now you agree that some people do use it in reality or reality in itself, right? So how can't you call somebody spooked out or pseudo, right? When you just said that some say God in a different reality or some say God is in reality or reality in itself. All right, so by your consensus, you basically cannot disprove or discredit the concept of what they call a supernatural force or God. You can't really prove that there is no God to be existing. And you only gave your point of view by saying that God exists through the black man and the black woman, right? And being that it's the highest form. So, all right, let me challenge you on this. How's that the black man and the black woman is the God? What makes the black man and black woman a God? And how do we know that? And how do we know that the black man and the black woman was the one that gave birth to the human family? How do we know that? How we know that it was the black man and black woman that gave birth to the human family? Where's the argument to prove that black man and black woman have given birth to the human family? Where is the argument at? All right. Where's the argument? Where's the proof? And according to the nation of gods of earth, let me show you something. Because then now you're going to be bumping heads here. The only person that's considered to be a god in their teaching is the black man. The black woman is considered to be the earth. So now, if the black man is a god and the black woman is the earth, then how is that a fair argument? Then how do you say what you're saying is, right, both men and women are gods, but that's not what's being taught in the 5% nation. It's not being taught that both men and women are God. It's being taught that the man is the God and the woman is the earth. So now that means that what you believe is contradicting to what is being taught. Correct? What you believe is contradicting to what is being taught. Because if you go to the average 5%er and say that the woman is a god as well, they're going to disagree with you. Because I have been to the parliaments and they don't want to hear that. If it, you know what I'm saying, they want to hear the concept about the black man being a god. Because the black man in this case is like become the center of everything. He's the center. And it's like the woman is the secondary to him. But anyways, give me a moment. Yeah, but getting back to my point. So, anyways, the black woman is secondary to him, right? Because if the man's considered as a god, that means he's become the center. He becomes like the center of the attention, right? And that itself is pseudo. That itself is pseudo because at the end of the day, we don't know exactly what a god and a god isn't. And we cannot prove or disprove that what we call a god or a natural phenomenon, right, or supernatural does not exist. We can't prove or disprove that. All we doing is going by our belief system. All right. So I just want to go ahead and let's get into the definition terminology of what we call God. All right. So I'm right here. So it says in monotheistic. Hold up. Okay, my computer is frozen up. Hold on. All right. So, anyways, let me just go ahead and read it. It says the monotheistic thought God is usually viewed as the supreme being, creator, and principal object of faith. God is usually conceived as being the omnipotent, the omniscient, the omnipresent, and the benevolent, as well as having an eternal and necessary existence. Right? God is most often held to be incorporeal, with said characteristic being related to conception of transcendence and immanence. Right? Now it says some religions describe God without reference to gender, while others use terminology that is gender specific and gender biased. God has been conceived as either personal or impersonal. In theism, God is the creator and sustainer of the universe, while in deism, God is the creator but not the sustainer of the universe. In pantheism, God is the universe itself. Atheism is an absence of belief in any God or deity, while agnosticism deems the existence of God unknown or unknowable. God has also been conceived as the source of all moral obligation and the greatest conceivable existence. Many noble philosophers has developed arguments for and against the existence of God. Okay, so go further down. It says each monotheistic religion refers to its God using different names, some referring to cultural ideas about the God's identity and attributes. Okay, so in ancient Egyptian Antinism, possibly the earliest recorded monotheistic religion, this deity was called Aten and proclaimed to be the one true supreme being and creator of the universe. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about in the Hebrew Bible, the title God include Elohim, Adonai, and others in the name Yahweh, right? Um, then goes into Islam. The title God, Allah, in the Arabic language is often used as the name, while Muslims also use a multitude of other titles for God. In Hinduism, Brahman is authentic monistic concept of God. And Zoroastrianism, the God is called Ahura Mazda. Meanwhile, one-on-one other names are in use. Chinese religion, Shingandi, is conceived as the progenitor of the universe, intrinsistic to it and constantly bringing order to it. Now, going down here, it says the earliest written form of the Germanic word God comes from the 6th century Christian codex, etc. The English word itself is derived from the Proto-Germanic Golden. The reconstruction Proto-Indo-European from Gotum was likely based on the root Got, which means either to call or to invoke. Okay. The Germanic words for God were originally neutered, applying to both genders, but during the process of Christianization of the Germanic peoples from their indigenous Germanic paganism, the word became a masculine satanic form. So just to give a little bit of synopsis there, all right? Just to get a little bit of that information. Now, again, so if you say that you're a God, right? Then what is the highest supreme? What supreme is over you? Something have to be over you, right? For you to even say that you the God. Unless it'll be wise enough to say there is no God but self. Now, if you could say that there is no God but self, then that would be a greater argument. There is no God but self. So again, at the end of the day, that's kind of going back to Sufi Islam, because that's what they believe is based off of. When you see Allah, when you know God, you know yourself, right? So they go off the mysticism, esoteric knowledge. So if you're telling people that who are into African spirituality that they might as well just went on ahead and stay into Christianity, New Ageism, etc., then you might as well went into Sufi Islam and let go of the nation gods of earth philosophy, because at the end of the day, that's again, it's a watered down version of the Sufi Islamic doctrine. So, and then to tell somebody to go back to Christianity when they practice ATR, which is African traditional religion, that's backwards, because at the end of the day, when somebody have to go back into the African traditional religion, because a lot of time when you go into these churches, right, that's ran by black people, like if you go into the black churches and you see how the black churches ran, we will see that there is a lot of African spiritual practices going on in these churches. So it would be wise enough to say, well, if you're going to incorporate a lot of African spiritual practices, you might as well go back to, studying about African African traditional religion. You might as well do that. I mean, because that'll make a better argument, right? I mean, it makes a lot more sense. So let's talk about spookism. All right, so when we talk about spookism, it says belief in or the practice of communicating with spooks or spirit. All right, spiritualism. Dabbler in wireless and spookism has specifically equipped set which collects the voice of the dead. All right, so now let's go into the dictionary term. All right, that's the online version. I think the dictionary can give a better version of it. I got an old dictionary, so well, it ain't that old. It's just a lot of stuff falling apart. So let's look up the word spookism. All right, so now the first spook means a disembodied soul, which is a ghost, right? A spy. The second spook means to make frightened or frantic, alarmed, frightened, horrified, panic, scared, shocked, startled, terrified, terrorized, right? Spooky, as the term that you use, spooky, related to resembling or suggesting spooks, easily frightened, creepy, airy, haunting, uncanny, earthly, weird, more airy. Okay? Now, can some people be spooked out by their beliefs? Absolutely. There are people that can be spooked out. But when we go into understanding those who might be spiritual, right? Are they really being a spook? Or are they giving commemoration to those who are no longer here? Are they being a spook? Or are they giving commemoration to those who are no longer here? To those who have passed away? Now, because let's say this, for example, if you pour libation, right? Is there a form of spookism? When you pour libation, is there a form of spookism? Is there a form of being spooked out? So when you stand outside on the corner, or when you congregating and you take the liquor bottle and you pour it to the ground, is there a form of spookism? Is that a form of spookism? I'm just gonna leave that as a thought. I'm just gonna leave that as a thought, okay? Now let me get to this the next point. Now you say something about science and spirituality. Now, so here's the thing. See, this is where the thing come in at. See, and then one day I'm gonna actually do a video on this. I'm going to actually get into doing the subject in itself. Okay. What if science came out of the school of spirituality? What if science came out the school of spirituality, which came out the school of philosophy? What if science came out the school of spirituality, which came out the school of philosophy? Because if we really go back a little bit, right? Let's just go back. Those who practice spirituality, they was one of the first to try to get into what we call today scientific knowledge, right? They were one of the first to try to explain the natural phenomenon. They was the one of the first to use like herbal medicines, right, etc. They were one of the first to do it. They was one of the first to do it. But and then there were those who was able to branch out those different schools of thoughts or branch out of spirituality and go into their own to actually develop scientific to develop technological advances to test the scientific knowledge, and they came up with some form of possibility, right? So what I'm saying is to say that spirituality and science and scientific knowledge, or spirituality and science are pretty much similar to each other. The only difference is with science, they don't use the nomenclature of God and deity and all of that. Okay, but some of the practices are very similar. What do I mean by that? Because with those who was in the school of spirituality, when they did healing process, etc., science does that too. Okay, but science used technological advances. When those in the school of spirituality study like the phenomenon, the natural phenomenon, the natural force of the universe, etc., and things like that. Science is doing the same thing, but they doing it more advanced of it. Okay. So again, they don't use the nomenclature that those in the spirituality school of thoughts do, but it's very similar. If you really look at it and you pay attention, you see the similarity, especially when it comes to studying like astrophysics, astronomy, and all that. There's some form of similarity there. It's just there is no nomenclature. There's no concept of worshiping deities per se. But it's very ironic. The planets, the months of the year, the days of the week, they all are named after Roman and Greek gods. They are named after deities. Which that makes it really funny. Peace to brother DC. How you doing? Okay. That's a good response. Shout out to Lion's Time Baby. That's a good response. He said it's spooky if you think the deceased is actually drinking the drink. Good response. Good response. That's good. That's good. That's good. Good response. But what I'm showing you is there is a relationship between spirituality and science. So it's like this. You can't really separate spirituality. I mean, how can I say this? Yeah, you really can't too much separate spirituality from science. You really can't. So when we look at the pre-science and the origin of science, we'll see that there was a lot of spiritual interpretation, right? There was a lot of spiritual concept of understanding the natural phenomenon and the healing practices, etc. We will see that. But once technological advances came into place, there was no need. Some people felt like there was no need to use spirituality because you got technological advances now. When you look at astrology, right? Astrology is the precursor of astronomy. When you look at alchemy, alchemy is the precursor of chemistry. So, I mean, it would be a lot to go into, but I mean, you will see there is the relationship there. And what they have in common is philosophy, because philosophy is the introduction to knowledge. That's all philosophy is. It just deals with the introduction of knowledge. But if you break it down, it's the love of knowledge, logic, and beliefs. That's all it is. Because Sophia means wisdom, right? Philo means the love of. Okay. And then when we look at the epistemology deals with the study of that particular knowledge. That's all epistemology deals with, the theory of knowledge or the study of knowledge in itself. And then when we look at science, science deals with the application of knowledge. So now you take that knowledge and you put it into use and bring some form of application to it. Now, if it's falsifiable, right? And if it can be put up to a test, then it can pass that test. But if it's not able to be falsified, or if it's not able to be put up to a test, then it's not going to be able to pass. So it's going to be written off as what you call pseudo knowledge. Okay. So yeah, so there is a correlation between spirituality and science. And it's very funny that you got more physicists, not philosophers, but physicists that try to bring the relationship between spirituality and science. Theoretical physicists at that. They try to understand, well, where does the concept of God or this supernatural force or this divine energy play a part into the universe? They're still trying to figure that out to this day. They're still asking questions. What is consciousness? How does consciousness play a part into this? What is consciousness? What does it mean to have a conscious? These are physicists that's actually studying it, not just philosophers. They're going to people that are spiritualists, right? That in spiritual schools of thoughts, they are going to philosophers asking questions, having dialogue. They're trying to do the research, is trying to find out where there is a supernatural force that's really taking place. Is there a supernatural force that's taking place? Is there a supernatural God that's around here? How can God be proven? How can God not be proven? So, getting back to the point, in all due respect to Brother Raborn, like I said, he a very knowledgeable man, very powerful man, but he has no way of approving or disproving the concept of what we call God or the supernatural force. He has no way of disproving that. I mean, he can say that he doesn't believe there is a God or there's a supernatural force, but he cannot say that he can prove that there is no God, because we have not been around long enough as humans to actually know what is behind this universe. Now, we could say that we don't believe in God based on what the Bible say, or what the Quran say, or what the Torah say. We can say we don't believe in God based on some of the traditions that's being practiced. We can say that, but we really can't say that there's no supernatural force. We can't really say there's no supernatural force behind this universe, because we don't know. We don't know what is behind this universe. We don't know what type of natural phenomenon is taking place behind the universe, because we have not been around long enough to actually go behind the universe or go behind the earth to actually see if there is a supernatural force, because we don't know. We don't know what's really in operation. All right. But we just do know that as human, we exist. We here. That's all we know. We're here, and we have our own beliefs, and we have our own doctrine about things. We have our own belief system. We have our own doctrine. Now, it's not necessarily right, and may not be necessarily wrong. Again, it may not be necessarily right, and it may not be necessarily wrong. It's just what a person believes, or what people believe in, how they interpret the natural phenomenon. You can say that in theory, but can't you actually prove that there is a natural force? See, this is why I like agnosticism. One of the things about agnosticism, the question is always open. Well, if there is a supernatural force, where can't you prove? Can't you prove it there is a supernatural force behind here? If there is no supernatural force, can't you prove that there is no supernatural force? Where can't you prove or disprove? Where's the argument? So that's why I like agnosticism, because it's always open for question. We don't know exactly what it is. We don't know exactly, because, and the reason why I say that we don't know exactly what it is, because only 70% of the universe, right, is based on what? Dark energy. 25% of it is based on dark matter, and 5% of it is observable. Now, if you got 70% of it is dark energy and only 25% of it is dark matter, then how can you determine right then and there, based on those things, that there is a supernatural force? You really can't make that determination, because you're dealing with dark energy and dark matter of the universe. And only thing that is left is 5% of our observation. So if you got 5% of observation, then how do you exactly determine the supernatural force? How do you determine what is the supernatural force and where it is? You can't determine that based on that 5% observation. You cannot determine that based on that observation. You only got 5% observation. That means that you can only see with your naked eye or what is right in front of you. That's only 5%. Everything else is either dark matter or dark energy. So dark matter, dark energy, it is hard to determine what is the supernatural force behind this universe. It's hard to say that there is a supernatural force and there isn't no supernatural force. You can't really say that. That's why I don't agree with the concept of the Big Bang Theory. I don't agree with the concept of Big Bang Theory, because it's like, Okay, if there's only 5% observation, then how can you really say there's a Big Bang there? We don't know exactly what it was. So that's why I have to put that into question. But again, that's just where I stand on it. I'm not a scientist, okay? I'm not a scientist. I don't have that. Okay. I'm not a scientist. I don't have that big scientific knowledge. I can just only question things. But I'm not a scientist, all right? I don't have that type of experience. So that's just what I stand on it. This is just me thinking and having questions. It's like, okay, well, how do you prove that? How do you make that argument? Right. So, but yeah, let's see what's on here. Go horses got that goddamn heathen out of here. Boy, y'all so true. Y'all some mills. Y'all some mills. Yeah. So, wow, I'm just reading the comment section. The comments are very hilarious right now. Uh, Peace to Pure Blood. Shout out to Brother Chauncey. Thank y'all for coming through. Shout out to the chat. Thank y'all for coming through, though. But no, seriously, we really have to sit back and just analyze things, and we really have to think about stuff as humans, okay? Because it's real easy to say that, well, this and that is pseudo. Well, we gotta start saying this a lot. Everything is based on subjectivity. We live in a subjective world. Now, what do I mean by subjective world? That means that it's based on subjectivity. It's based on subjectivity. It's based on perception, right? And that's how everything started off. It started off with a beginning. What matters the most is when the objective come in. So now when it can be objectified, right? If it can be objectified, then that's what makes the difference. But in the beginning, it starts out with subjective. So what we talk about here, right, especially when it comes to dealing with belief system and all of that is subjective. All right. So getting back to the point that I was making in my post, I said, well, if you're gonna call African spirituality pseudo, then you got there's other things that you gotta call pseudo. You know, you gotta call the Hebrew Israelite pseudo, you gotta call the indigenous folks pseudo, which we know they are. You gotta call the Judaism pseudo, you can call Islam pseudo, you can call Christianity pseudo, you gotta call the Moorish Science Temple pseudo, you gotta call the Nation of Gods of Earth pseudo, you gotta call the the Nation of Gods of Earth pseudo, you gotta call what's the other one? The Nation Islam pseudo. You gotta call Taoism pseudo, Buddhism pseudo, Confucianism pseudo. You gotta call all of them pseudo. If you're gonna call African spirituality pseudo, you gotta call the rest of them out to be pseudo as well. Because at the end of the day, they all dealing with belief system. Hell, even this book right here, this book will be considered as pseudo. And I admire this book so much. It's called the Kabbalion. This book will be considered as pseudo, right? It will be considered as pseudo. But at the end of the day, what to my own knowledge and my own understanding of it after reading this book is dealing with spiritual interpretation to break down scientific knowledge. That's all it is. It deals with spiritual interpretation to break down scientific knowledge. That's all it deals with. But if you read the book, you will see that there is quasi allegories behind it. You know what I'm saying? There's pseudo interpretation. It sounds very pseudo. But when you really think about it, go beyond the surface of it, you'll see that it's breaking down scientific knowledge, but using spiritual interpretation. Almost everything other than that 5% is pseudo. Pretty much a lot of stuff has its pseudo beginning. So a lot of stuff has its pseudo beginning. It has a pseudo beginning until it can be proven. Okay? And pseudo does not always necessarily mean that it's a bad thing either. Okay? Peace, how you doing, sister? Shout out to you. Thank you for coming through. But yeah, pseudo doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing or it's terrible, it's no good. You know what I'm saying? Because some pseudo knowledge has its use. Some pseudo knowledge has something that it can help someone in their personal life. You know what I'm saying? But some pseudo knowledge ain't no good and it don't need to be around. You just need to get rid of it. But you know what I'm saying? But just because something is considered to be pseudo does not mean that it's just terrible or it's bad, it ain't up to no good. It just means that it's not enough information to validate it as far as consensus wise. That's all it means. It's not enough information to validate it. It's not enough information to say that it's absolutely true. So it can just be based on beliefs, and it may be something useful to somebody else. It may be something useful. It may be something that a person can use for their own daily routine in their personal lives. You know what I'm saying? Or it could be used as a way to bring about interpretation of, it could bring about interpretation of what is considered as, concrete knowledge, or, or scientific knowledge. So somebody might go into that pseudo aspect in order to understand scientific knowledge. You know what I'm saying? This is where they become lateral thinkers, or they become very creative by being able to use some form of interpretation. Because to be honest with you, to understand science from its technical terminology can be very difficult. It can be very difficult to understand science from its technical terminology. So that's why when you see that sometimes they, to explain scientific information, there's illustration, there's like pictures, diagram, etc., to explain some form of scientific knowledge, because it makes a person more intrigued and it helps them to be able to gain a better understanding of the particular terminology. But if you was to take away that aspect of using illustration or using some form of pseudo, then that person may not be able to get it. It'll go over people's head. They're trying to understand scientific methodology or scientific knowledge. It's going to go over a lot of people's head. So sometimes people use the pseudo concept of things, pseudo terminology, or use like different nomenclatures, or use allegories or anthropomorphism to describe something or to explain something. So that way it will make a lot more sense. It depends if those beliefs speak in absolute. And a lot of them do speak in absolute. That's the thing. They do. They believe that their knowledge is absolute. That's the thing. That's what can make it pseudo, because you're speaking in the form of absolute. Like in our school, like let's say, for example, in Christianity, they honestly believe that Jesus died on the cross and Jesus is gonna come back on the earth to save humanity and punish those individuals. They absolutely believe that. Like people absolutely believe that Jesus is coming back. Now, anybody with logical sense know that ain't no man gonna come back down and try to save humanity. So for those of us, we see it from a metaphorical point of view, that symbolically speaking, that Jesus represent that God is a reflection of man and man is a reflection of God. For those of us who have understanding, who can understand the metaphors behind it. But you have those who are caught up and engulfed into actually believing that Jesus actually is God himself. Well, how can God be dead? If y'all believe that, then how can God be dead? So, and if you say that Jesus is coming back, then where is the proof that Jesus is going to come back? When is he coming back? How long is that going to take? No, but Buddhism use pseudo concept. Buddhism use Buddha. You know what I'm saying? So Buddhism used Buddha, just like Taoism used Tao. Ooh, I feel lightheaded. Hold on. Ooh, I feel lightheaded. Damn, y'all. My bad. Hold on, y'all. I just felt lightheaded right then and there. Oh my God, what just happened? My bad. I'm sorry about that. I guess because of the heat, though. Oh my goodness. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Give me a moment, y'all. I just felt lightheaded. Woo! I just felt lightheaded, yo. That's crazy. Damn. That is absolutely crazy. I just felt lightheaded right then and there. Let me just give me a moment, y'all. Give me a moment. Okay. I'm bad, y'all. I'm bad. I just had to stand up. I just had to walk around for a little bit because I just felt, you know what I'm saying? I just felt lightheaded, man. It's like where I'm at, it's hot as hell. It's really hot as hell. So so y'all have to be careful with this heat. Boy, this heat will have you feeling lightheaded, like dizzy. Oh my God, that's just crazy. Damn. Let me be careful. Let me be careful. Woo. Damn. That just scared the hell out of me. Oh, that just scared the hell out of me, man. I thought I was about to pass out. I'm sitting here talking to y'all, and I felt like I was about to pass out, man, because I felt lightheaded. That's crazy. Damn. Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness. I can't. Okay. Damn. Woo. Wait a minute. Let me relax. Let me just hold on. Ooh, I almost lost myself. I almost about to damn near pass. Oh my goodness. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy as hell. Boy, I just sat here and felt lightheaded. I just felt lightheaded, like wow, like I was about to pass out. Oh my goodness, damn. Hold on, man. I just forgot my train of thought just that fast. I just forgot what I was saying. I gotta reflect, baby. Hold on, just give me a moment. Damn. What was I saying though? Hold on, let me think. All right, so yes, I was saying about Buddhism, right? So Buddhism, right? Um, it used some form of pseudo terminologies, etc. Okay, Taoism use some form of pseudo terminology. Taoism say the way. Okay, well, what is the way? But to me, Taoism make a lot more sense. But at the end of the day, it could be put up to be pseudo. That doesn't mean that Tao is a bad thing. Buddhism can be put up to be pseudo. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you ask, well, what is a Buddha? You know what I'm saying? Hinduism. As a matter of fact, I got one of the little Hindu books from the Hindu people when I was at a event. That could be considered pseudo. Um, so it's a lot of stuff that could be considered pseudo. Either Stoicism could be considered pseudo, and Stoicism is basically dealing with a philosophy that preach that you have to learn how to have more control over your emotion and not to give in to a lot of things, or not to um what is it, not to get into a lot of things, not really like expressing a lot of feelings into a lot of stuff that's going on. So but sometimes people say Stoicism is pseudo. Stoicism is not a good thing. because I read an article where Stoicism, where it was stating that Stoicism is ran by Stoics. So those who are Stoics, they don't really show value, or they don't really care. So it's like there's pros and cons to being a Stoic. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a lot of things that could consider to be pseudo. It's a lot of things that could be considered as being pseudo. So you know what I'm saying? So especially if you are in the school of thought, you have to really think about this. When you say something is pseudo, right? You gotta realize that your practice or what you believe in can also be put up to a challenge. All right. So that's the whole point that I was getting at by Brother Raborn, is not to discredit him on the information that he's put out. Because again, the brother put great information out, especially when it comes to Black history and all of that. He does a great job at that. But then when you say things are spookism and spooked out and stuff like that, and when you say things are pseudo, then that means that, okay, now you got to put your school of thought and what you believe in into a challenge. You got to put that up for a challenge. Well, can that be considered as being pseudo? Can it be considered as being falsified, etc., etc.? So the reason why I use the concept of the nation of gods of earth, because I know that he's a 5%er. And so a lot of the stuff, some of that stuff is pseudo teaching. I mean, like I said, going back to the concept of the original man, the original woman, in the scientific world, that would be considered pseudo, because there's no concept of a Black man and Black woman when you talk about humans, or when you talk about the original human beings, right? The original human beings were Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Homo albus, Australopithecus, etc., etc. They didn't have no racial connotation to it. They didn't have no racial terminology to themselves. All right. So, anyways, y'all. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that video or enjoyed this video, and thank you for coming in, listening to the video. So I apologize that I had to stop for a little bit, because I started to get a little, I just started to feel a little lightheaded, so I had to kind of like take a walk for a little bit and just come back. So sorry, sorry about that. So I had a little scared. I had a little scare moment over here. I had a little scare moment, boy. I was like getting nervous. I was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video off. So I hope you guys got some of the information. And like I said, for those of you that don't know who Each One Teach One is, check out their channel. Check out Each One Teach One. Go on to their YouTube channel. They post up a lot of information about African and African American history. They do a good job on that. So again, shout out to Brother Raborn. If Raborn wants me to come on where his platform is at and give my response to the whole thing, or if he want to have a dialogue discussion with me, I'll be more than welcome to do so. I'll be more than welcome to be on the platform. So he can reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? He can reach out to me on Facebook. He can reach out to me on YouTube, whatever. And we can just make the arrangement to where I can come on their platform and give my thoughts and give my views and opinions on that, etc., etc. Yeah. So, but other than that, thank everybody, and make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share my channel, etc., etc. And also, make sure you check out all my other contents on here. Oh, I just want to say this before I close it out. Shout out to this guy named Greg Robertson. I don't know who Greg Robertson is. I don't know this man from a can of paint. Okay. Greg Robinson told me that I was spooked out because he saw one of my pictures on Facebook where I had my face painted. You know, and let me say something. You can't assume what people believe in just because you see an image. You know what I'm saying? So for that brother who saw the picture of me with my face painted or whatnot, it was not, that's more of representing culture and pride. That represent culture and pride, all right, for me. That's why I wear my face painted. And if I want to, I would do it again. I would do it again. So Juneteenth coming up. So if Juneteenth coming up, right, and I attend to it, I'm going to have my face painted. You know what I'm saying? I might walk through your neighborhood with my face painted if I want to. So, you know what I'm saying? That it represents culture and pride. So if you say I'm spooked out because I got my face painted up, okay, well then so be it. I'll be spooked out with my face painted. I'll be spooked out. But, you know, it's funny, you know, this person doesn't know what my beliefs is or what I practice. You know, this person asked me, well, what are your beliefs? What do you believe in? And maybe I would have told him, but he assumed because of my face painting that I believe in something, that I'm spooked out. That's when you messed up and made a wrong assumption about me, because you don't know what my beliefs are. You don't know what my spiritual practices are. So yeah, but yeah, I sure will wear my face painted. And I mean, well, what's up? What's wrong with that? If I want to put polka dots on my face, I can do that. How about that? If I want to walk around looking like Kiss, if y'all know Kiss, the rock band from the 1970s, 1980s, if I want to look like Kiss, I can do that. Wear one part of my face white, the other part black. You know what I'm saying? I'll come out there looking like Dennis Rodman. You know, when Dennis Rodman when he was playing basketball, he had his face painted at one point. I'll do that shit. I'll come on here one day with my whole entire face painted up, doing a video. But I would tell you this, if you really want to know, I'm not initiated to any African traditional religion. I'm not initiated to any African traditional religion, right? I just respect those who are in it. I have respect and understanding. At least I'm learning more about them. All right. So I don't even fit into any school of thoughts. I'm not in any school of thoughts. I'm just like basically studying and just be able to have my own interpretation, my own understanding, and own knowledge about things. But if I was to stand on a position, it would be more on pantheism. Pantheism, because I see God and universe being one. I seen God and universe being one and being a connection to each other. That's how I see God. That's my way of understanding God as one, as a unity to the universe. That's how I understand nature being a unity to God. That's how I understand consciousness being unity to the so-called God. So if that's where I stand on my position, would be more so pantheism. That's where I would be at. All right. But then at the same time, I also incorporate agnosticism as well too. And the reason why I say I incorporate agnosticism, because it could still be questionable. Well, how do you prove there is a supernatural, and how you prove that there is no supernatural? All right. Peace to Thirsty Uno. Peace to Thirsty Uno. Shout out to everybody in the chat. All right, let me go ahead and let me get up off of here, because I don't want to have another scare attack like I did just a few moments ago. So for those of you that just coming on here, make sure you check out the video from the very beginning. And also I had a little panic attack over here, man. Oh my goodness, I had a little panic attack. I was getting nervous. I was like, oh shit, what just happened to me? Oh my goodness. Damn. Wow. That's what happened when you get older. You got to make sure you take care of your health, man. You got to watch out for your health, because anything can happen to you. You got to look out for yourself, man. Shit. But yeah, make sure you guys check out the video from the very beginning to see what the subject is about, to see what I'm talking about. So this basically just giving my response to Brother Raborn. And I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you guys be safe and be careful out there. So until next time, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the channel, share the channel. If you want to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and do so. If you want to share the channel, do that as well. All right, and I will come back hopefully Friday to do a video. So I will keep you guys posted on the subject and the topic that I want to talk about. All right, but until then, y'all be safe. All right, and take it easy. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank everybody in the chat. Peace to Brother Vinyasa. Shout out to you. So, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.